It's a Tuesday, and Covey Proctor here to talk about forms of government and economic systems and how they kind of tie into each other. Authoritarian rule versus libertarian, the whole dichotomy between socialism and capitalism. So the problem that I have, and I think that is fundamentally a concern when people sling around socialism, is that socialism really means changing the means of production from private to government means. The government interferes and you end up with Victory brand cigarettes. So this is why I'm against housing, this housing plan, this Green New Deal concept, because I think that as much as they mean well, the road to hell is paved on good intentions, right? The whole goal here is to make a better system to create, housing with mandatory solar panels, and these will all be mandatory. These jobs guarantees are going to be produced by this stuff, but then they're a guarantee. A guarantee can very easily slip into a mandatory perspective when you start having the means of production change. So I do think there is a valid concern on the Republican side. As much as I am pro-Bernie in a lot of ways, he means well, he's great. He's a good guy, and that's why I voted for him. Not because I agreed with his, I've never agreed with his politics 100%. I don't agree with Yang's politics 100%, but I do believe that dividing us is the wrong thing to do. Going farther left and pulling us super hard to the left, and not in a creative way, right? We're doing this in a way that is just going to cause more division. We're saying this is what's best for the country when obviously a good majority of red hat wearing Americans don't feel the same. Now, I'm not saying that we need to cater to either side, especially not the red hat wearing Americans. I don't care what you think about, a wall or any. The problem is, at the end of the day, is there's an easier way around it. We can create a system that works for everybody together. We don't have to go socialism, capitalism, dichotomy. Those are archaic. We need to move past that and into a new form of capitalism, a new form of free market capitalism, which I do think gets away from taxes, moves towards voluntarism, but also helps using the government for what it was intended, to take care of the base of the economic structure, right? The foundation, which is founded on this understanding that everybody has a free opportunity and the ability to build themselves up. So when you create a universal basic income, you provide everybody with that. You eliminate a lot of those social programs, but not right away. That's not going to happen right away. And I think people are going to opt towards money and away from fucking programs. I'm on disability. I understand what this is like. And it's not easy, even with a kid and survivor income, like from a lost spouse. You don't understand what it's like until you live in it. And so I can understand concerns. People like my friend Mike who care, about the foundation of society. We need to. So human-centered capitalism, in my opinion, is the future. It's the direction that we need to go. We need to stop focusing on who has what, and I should have less and I should have more. Let's get away from that, because society is built on capitalism. Capitalism is great if it's a true free market capitalism. I don't believe that this is what we have. I think we have an oligarchy, corporatism kind of thing, this monster that's just taken over, and it's wrong, right? It's not working. And this is why I voted for Ron Paul initially. I don't feel like there is the right mentality in government right now. And I like Yang in the aspect, not because he's an outsider, but because he's a thinker. And because he's working his way around corners. He's going to find his way thinking around a corner when it comes to getting things implemented, like the UBI thing. He doesn't have to consult anybody to change the growth amendment. And this isn't an authoritarian executive order thing. Like, he can literally go down to the Bureau of Economic Well-Being or whatever it is and change the measurement from GDP to this new form of human-centered capitalism. And he doesn't need congressional approval to do so. It's just part of his job. I mean, really. So it's not some fucking, pen pushing across the paper, forcing this into law like Obama and Trump both did. I don't agree with that. I think at the end of the day, we need to get away from that. We have 3 branches of government for a reason, but we also need to figure out how to come together. And the best way to do it is not to all fight about socialism versus capitalism, because socialism and capitalism are going away. We're going to move towards the end of society or to a new form of free market capitalism, which I really think is going to be keep the government out of it as much as possible. Try to deflate the dollar in or the bloated economic system. Like, we're putting a load on it by adding more spending with UBI. I get that, but we're also releasing a lot at the same time. Does it balance out? No, not initially, but over a period of time, it's definitely going to happen, because you got to think of all the different programs and stuff that are supporting people that can't, get a job or work, but also people that are capable of working, but they're staying home with their autistic kid, or they're, volunteering more for the community, or they primarily focus their time and effort into, if they're a volunteer, any type of volunteerism, I think, is going to be the direction, I guess is what I'm getting at. I'm kind of stumbling over my words, but I really think that volunteerism is the future. And forcing people to do things with a gun is not. It's not. It's why we are where we are as a species. And if we don't get our shit together and start recognizing that taxation really is theft, I get that. I'm not saying, my friend Brandon makes a valid point all the time. Taxation is theft. My right to my money is my personal right, my property, personal right. But when you use force to take those things, either to obtain them or to obtain tax, it's stepping backward in time. We're moving backwards. I don't think that given enough time, free market capitalism will destroy anything. I actually think that it's quite the opposite. Everybody paints capitalism as a bad thing. No, it's not. I mean, it's like socialism. It's a bad thing if you're relying on the government to control the productions of means. I don't think socialism is inherently good. I think it's never worked, but I do think social programs in the past have kind of started to create this balance of new progress and order that can shift away from government actually and into voluntarism. We can see, because we've paid into the system, that these systems can work just by volunteering for it. And if you can't, then you don't. But if you can, then you do. And it comes down to a moral thing. But I think that we're shifting away from morality in a lot of ways too. And this is a discussion that the Republicans have a lot. Obviously, jumping behind, number one there is not, in my opinion, the best way to look at it. But I do think the middle of the road perspective is the right way to go. I mean, I think that, centrism isn't the way to go, but I don't think it's left or it's right. I do think that it's forward. I think that Yang's hit the nail on the head with that we need to move forward to a new society that doesn't rely on mudslinging and political heroes, basically, to control everything. I think that it's not something that we can change overnight. I do think that creating a universal basic income is the best path for this, to release some of the pressure on the system. and the bureaucracy. I don't want to go to DHHS every 4 to 6 fucking months to have to sign paperwork to say, for food stamps. And it's a nightmare. I would much rather just get that money and everybody else would too. That's the thing. We'd be spending that money in the local economy, blowing up the local economy, allowing small businesses to grow and create things. That coupled with a newer form of healthcare, sure. I do think that the bind in the middle, the Medicare, Medicare for all who want it, free healthcare is not the solution, but I do think that privatized healthcare is an option, or you can have no out of pocket, because I do think that the amount that we're paying as a country is insane. It's going to break our country. Do I think we should get away from that? Yeah, I don't think that we should be relying on the system for healthcare. It causes the inflated cost of EpiPens. It causes all of these things to expand, and money is just. I think it's not. It's not the way to go. We need to decrease some of that weight on the fake dollar, so to speak, because it doesn't exist. It is a fictitious dollar that we're just printing the fuck out. And it's just getting bloated, and the system's getting heavy. So I see libertarians and where they're coming from, but at the same time, I think we need to move forward past anything that Ayn Rand would have thought. I don't think that Ayn Rand could wrap her head around automation and AI and what it was really going to do. Even in the 80s, before she died, in like 83 or 87, I don't fucking know. She said, or maybe it was the late 70s, she said that, automation and robots and computers and the future of the internet was flights of fancy. She was fucking wrong. Ayn Rand was fucking wrong. She's right about a lot of things, and I get it, objective realism and all that, but she's fucking wrong about that. And nobody from the Libertarian Party is factoring that in. That is frustrating to me, because we need to wake up. AI and technology is changing us fundamentally. And we need to get our big boy pants on, because it's coming fucking fast. If we aren't ready for it, it's going to knock us the fuck over. It'll wipe us right off the board if we're not ready to either combine with it or, just prepare for whatever advent AI turns into. I think that that's going to pave the way away from this dichotomy of socialism and capitalism. But ultimately, the big concern that I have is robotics and AI. I'm not talking about, I've said this before, a Terminator scenario. I'm talking about job loss scenario, a calculated job loss scenario, which we're not even paying attention to, and we don't even realize that it's become self-aware. Could happen. Not saying it's likely. Sounds more science fiction to most. But the thing that I am concerned with is the major job loss by local robot outsourcing. And we can tax those laborless means, which I know is unpopular because of the word tax. But robots don't feel pain. They don't suffer. There's nothing you're saving the fucking robots from. I'm sorry. They work for Amazon. They work for me. They work for fucking the United States government. They work for, it doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, they're producing the same type of means. And long term, sure, privatization is important. And I understand that they're property and all of that. But they are also subverting a lot of the economy to a point where it's going to cause us to teeter-totter and fall over. At the same time, we have an expanded, inflated economic system. I think it's just going to pop. And I'll leave you with this. I think that for people on the left, the hard left, Bernie has no chance of bringing in Trump supporters. He did, but now he doesn't. He did in the last election, but he lost all of those Trump supporters to Tulsi, to Yang, those guys in the middle. And I do think that Tulsi is a better option than Bernie. I'm sorry. But I think Yang's the way to go. I think he's the solution. And Google him, research it. He's only doing this to try to save his kids. I can't say I don't relate. I mean, I completely relate to that. Have a great day.